The invoice arrived on my 25th birthday. Not a card, not a gift. A literal, itemized invoice for $438,542.19. My mother's handwriting was at the bottom, neat and clinical. It said, "Payment due upon receipt for 25 years of services rendered." Most people celebrate a quarter-century of life with cake. I celebrated it by realizing I was never a daughter to my parents. I was a long-term investment they were finally ready to cash out. But here's the thing about investments. They can fail. Fast forward to today. My phone has buzzed 80 times since 6 a.m. 80. My father is leaving voicemails screaming about filial duty, while my mother is sobbing to my aunts about how I've robbed them of their retirement. They wanted every cent back for the food I ate, the clothes I wore, and the roof over my head. Well, I'm giving them exactly what they earned. And let's just say, the interest on my revenge is far higher than they ever expected. This is why you should never treat your child like a debt collector's paycheck. To understand how we got to 80 phone calls a day, you have to understand the ledger. Growing up in our house in the suburbs of Chicago, everything had a price. If I dropped a glass and it broke, that was $450 added to the debt. If I wanted a pair of sneakers for track season, my dad would make me sign a literal IOU. My parents, Martha and Richard, weren't poor. Richard was a high-level actuary. Martha was a real estate agent. They had money. They just didn't think I deserved any of it for free. "There's no such thing as a free lunch, Elena," my father would say, tapping his calculator. "We are providing you a premium upbringing. It's only fair you reimburse the estate once you're an adult." I thought it was a joke. A weird, eccentric parenting lesson about the value of $1. I worked 3 jobs through college to avoid adding to the debt. I slept 4 hours a night. I didn't ask them for a dime for tuition. I thought if I was self-sufficient, the debt would disappear. I was wrong. The day I landed my first high 6-figure job at a top tech firm, the tone changed. They didn't say, "Congratulations, we're proud of you." They said, "Great, now we can finally discuss the repayment schedule." They had kept receipts for everything: diapers from 1999, the electricity used for my nightlight, even the gas money for taking me to the ER when I had appendicitis. They weren't parents. They were creditors. Then there's Leo, my younger brother, the golden child. While I was signing IOUs for cereal, Leo was getting a brand new Jeep for his 16th birthday. No strings attached, no ledger. When I asked why Leo didn't have a debt, my mother just looked at me with that cold, thin-lipped smile. "Leo is the legacy, Elena. He carries the name. You're going to join another family. The least you can do is settle your bill with this one before you leave." Leo grew up entitled, lazy, and, honestly, a bit of a mess. He blew through his college fund in 1 semester on parties and crypto scams. Did they invoice him? No. They dipped into my childhood savings account, the one my grandmother left me, to cover his mistakes. "He's just finding himself," my father defended. "You, Elena, are stable. You are the one who owes us for making you so tough." They used my success as a weapon against me. They literally told me that because they were hard on me, I was now obligated to fund Leo's failure to launch lifestyle. The final straw? They tried to put a lien on my new condo. They told the family lawyer I had agreed to a repayment plan and used a forged signature from one of my old childhood IOUs. That's when the daughter in me died, and the strategist was born. They wanted $400,000. Fine. I told them I'd pay. But first, I needed a full audit of the expenses to ensure tax compliance for the transfer. Greedy as they were, they spent weeks compiling every single receipt they had ever kept. While they were busy digging through old shoeboxes of receipts, I was busy with a private investigator and a forensic accountant. I knew my father's actuary firm had some gray areas, and I knew my mother's real estate commissions weren't always reported accurately. I invited them to a settlement dinner at a high-end restaurant. They showed up looking smug, Leo in tow, already talking about the vacation home they were going to buy with my money. I handed them a folder. It wasn't a check. It was a breakdown of every single tax law they had violated in the last decade, along with proof of the $200,000 they had illegally siphoned from my grandmother's trust, which was actually legally mandated for my education only. The debt is settled, I told them. In fact, you owe me. But I don't want your money. I want you to realize that you just sold your only daughter for a pile of old receipts. The loss was immediate for them. I cut off the family cell phone plan I was paying for. I pulled the lease on the car Leo was driving, which was in my name for insurance purposes. I contacted the IRS regarding the unreported gifts they were trying to claim as repayments. They lost their social standing. The perfect family facade crumbled. My father was forced into early retirement to avoid an internal audit. Leo had to get a job at a warehouse because his allowance vanished overnight. They went from demanding $400,000 to begging for $400 for groceries. So here we are. 80 calls a day. They aren't calling to ask how I am. They're calling because the bank is foreclosing on the house they thought I would pay for. Remember that 450 glass I broke when I was 7? I sent a package to their doorstep yesterday. Inside was a single, beautiful crystal glass and a note that said, "Consider the debt paid in full. Don't call again. I've blocked the number." I'm finally free. I learned that you can't put a price on a child's love, but you can certainly put a price on a parent's greed. And for Martha and Richard, that price was everything. Have your parents ever treated you like an ATM? Or do you know someone who had to pay back their upbringing? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you think they got what they deserved, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of justice.